Hello and welcome to our final presentation of Killing with Tea. We're a team of 9 students making a full VR experience, which we'll be showing of you tonight, and we will be showing the 7th level. Killing with Tea is a game where you play a witch, willing to destroy each of 12 monstrous lords with poison in his tea. You will have to perform a tea ceremony and sneak poison during the very few patterns where he will be distracted. We are on HTC Vive, on Oculus Rift, and also on PlayStation VR to increase our visibility. We have a full 4 to 5 hours experience. We have a full solo mode and a cooperation mode, and we cannot be playing under 16 years old because we are representing a criminal act.
So Killing with Tea is based on 5 pillars that we've defined at the beginning of the production. Gigantism and tension carried by the lords, arcane and alchemy conveyed by the witch, the tea preparation and the atmosphere, and precision. We were inspired by tea ceremonies, and we wanted to keep some codes and rules that we can find in those. At each level corresponds a giant and specific lord with his own behavior and several processes to kill him. So first, there is the manipulation. In Killing with Tea, you have to prepare a tea by searching the right ingredient and then cooking them. Secondly, the stealth will also be crucial to achieve your goal. You will have to find the right timing under constant pressure to sneak some poison in the Lord's teacup. And finally, Killing with Tea is above all a boss fight. So as bosses, the Lords have specific patterns that lead their movement and create some windows of opportunity for the player. And they also respond to the player's action directly. So here's a simple walkthrough to explain you the basics of our gameplay. So at the beginning of the level, there is a cutscene to introduce the Lord. And then he comes in, and you have to bow before him. So the recipe appears, and you can start to search for ingredients. And during all the levels, you have to be careful of the warmth of the teacups. So it drops continually, so you have to warm it. So you search the ingredients, and you can start to prepare them, or if it's a poison, you may have to wait for an opportunity to sneak the poison in the teacup. And when it's ready, you can add it in your cauldron. You can search for another ingredient, and when it's the end of the recipe, you can validate your cauldron. At the end of the level, the Lord drinks the tea and die, or maybe not. So if you success it, you can go on the next level, otherwise you have to start again. Today, we're going to show you the 7th level of our game. And in this level, the Lord is the suspicious Lord. So the player has already learned all basics mechanics. And this Lord is very distrustful because he knows that 6 Lord has been killed before, but he don't know why nor how. So he won't stop to look at you. Sometimes he comes closer, humming your tea. But in this level, you will have a unique feature that are the incenses, and that will help you to sneak some poison in the Lord's teacup. So you can take a candle to burn it, and then trigger a cloud of smoke in which you can do whatever you want without being seen. But I think it will be way more convincing for you with a little demonstration, so let's see how Soufiane is going to deal with this suspicious Lord. Oh, I see the Lord is already here, so let's be quick. So we're in the middle of the witch cooking area. Everything that we're gonna need is around us. Here is your cauldron, in which you can mix everything that you want before pouring it in the Lord's teacup. But at this time, you have to be careful and be sure of your tea is well prepared, or you will be eaten. You can also cancel the preparation with this little switch on the right. As said before, during all the level, you will have to be careful of the warmth of the teacup. It drops continually, so you have to put a log in this furnace to warm it up. But it mustn't be too cold nor too hot, so don't forget it. Just behind you, there is your recipe. So each ingredient is identified by a distinct symbols and can be found in the huge shelf on your left. But be careful, because you have to then turn your back to the Lord and you don't know what he is doing. I think it's time to put the right ingredients in your cauldron, or he will get annoyed. Yeah, it seems to be the good one. So let's put it. But this magic potion that you are preparing also has to be poisoned. So you have a second parchment in which you can find a chart with a list of ingredients that become toxic when they are mixed with the good one. And there is several levels of toxicity that depends on the time needed to prepare it. So the main challenge will be to find the right timing to sneak this poison in your preparation. Oh, wait. Yeah, you really shouldn't forget to be discreet, or you will annoy the Lord, of course, if he sees you with this poison in your hand. You can use an incense if you want to hide your action. Okay, so let's be quick. You shouldn't have thought that you can fool the Lord. He definitely saw you putting this poison in the teacup, so let's try again, and this time don't forget to stay stealthy.
So I hope you enjoyed that demonstration made by Soufiane. And now we are going to talk about the art direction of the game. So what we wanted to create when crafting the universe of Killing with Tea was a universe where everything is gigantic, everything is mystic and strange. And we wanted to do that so the player always remain careful of his surrounding. We want players to fear that they can be crushed at any time and that danger can come from anywhere. So we were very inspired by East Asian culture, such as Khmer Buddhism or Korean shamanism. And the Lord you've just seen is one of the 6 lords we are currently developing, and one of the first 6, and then the 12th lord. And we want every lord to be different. We want the player to want to go forward in the game and be constantly surprised by the diversity of the lords. And the lord you've just seen is inspired by Japanese onis, which are some kind of troll. And he represents physical strength, domination, and power abuse, and that's why the witch wants to get rid of him and kill him. And here you can see the process we've had to create the lord and put it in the game. And the player plays as the witch, and the witch is the complete opposite of the lord. She's smart, she's wise, and she represents a very eclectic and occult knowledge. And here you can see some concept we've made for the ingredients that she used to poison the tea. So she's a traveler, she has gathered several objects from all over, around the world, and each object is different and has a very appealing aspect, because what we wanted to do is really make the tea preparation appealing, and we wanted to give us as much details and as much fun to the player, even if he's only crafting a tea, instead of fighting the boss with his bare hand, like in most boss fights.
So about the sound design, to get along with the graphic artistic direction and the mood we wanted to give to the players, we choose traditional instruments to give a ceremonial mood and feel, with sometimes a touch of modern things to reinforce the Arcana feel. We also worked on a long reverb to fit the place and work on spatialization, both with Auro 3D and to give a binaural rendering and a 5.1 rendering through a second setup of buses. About the artistic direction of the Lord, it's a big part of the game. The Lord has very low pitch sounds and breath, and that's the sound that gives him character and personality. So it was very important, depending on players' actions, that the players have a feedback on his actions. About the music is directly linked to the gameplay. The further you go on the recipe, the more complex and tense the music will become, through an addition of layers and through phases and subphases. About the annoyance gauge, it's an important feedback to the player, because it tells the player if the Lord is upset or not. If the gauge reach a certain point, the player gets eaten. So you have to be careful and listen to what the Lord is saying through the sounds.
In Cnam-Enjmin, there are 12 levels, and 6 others that are only playable online with another player. So we've worked on the learning curve so that the player can learn each mechanic step by step through the game and then challenge the player. So in each level there is a specific load and a unique environment. And as you progress in the game, you can unlock the cooperation levels. For example, after the third level, you can unlock cooperability, and there is so 5 others. And there's also a bonus level, Hunger Games, that can be unlocked when you finish all cooperation levels. So Killing with Tea is a complex game, but it's an integral part of the fun for the player. Here are some examples of lords that you can encounter through the game. So in the first level, you're in front of the narcoleptic lord. It's the introduction of the game and the recipe, so this lord won't looking at you except if you make a mistake. In the 6th level, you're in front of the eagle lord. So to challenge the manipulation skills of the player, this recipe, you have less time to make this recipe than in the other levels. And in the 11th level, you have to deal with the Medusa Lord. You can't look at him in the eyes, so you have to keep your eyes down, and you can use a little mirror to see what the Lord is doing. And you can see the explanation of all of our level in the game design document. So in almost each level of Killing with Tea, you will find again every basic mechanics of the preparation, like pouring the ingredient, combining it, grinding it, or cutting it. And there is also several ways to hiding your actions, like taking advantage of the Lord's intention, and you can hide your ingredients behind your body or into some opaque objects. But what we really renews the experience for the player are the unique features that can be found in some levels in the game. So for example, there are the instances, as you've seen in the demonstration, but also in the 5th level, you have to clean your tools before using it. And as said before, in front of the Medusa Lord, you can use a little mirror that is also used in the 5th level to blind the Lord by reflecting the light, and then creates a window of opportunity for the player. In the cooperation mode, the 2 players are in 2 separate platforms. So they don't have the same recipe to fulfill, and they don't have the same ingredients available to make their recipe. So they must cooperate to achieve their goal. And as game designers, we didn't want that the communication between the 2 players ruin the atmosphere. That's why they can't talk to each other directly. There is a little portal that connects the 2 game area in which they can trade some ingredients. And they also can draw in the air to show a direction or an ingredient. And for this purpose, the symbols of the ingredients are less complicated than in the solo mode, so that you can draw it with only 1 line. They also have a little gong to draw the attention of the other player or draw the attention of the Lord, but it's to be used moderately or you will really annoy the Lord.
And so, we wish to develop this game to stay the same team as we already developed the 7th level, because we are used to our pipeline and we can stay with the same basics mechanism. Only 1 strong mechanics will be added at each level. So we decide to cut our production planning with 3 main parts: the first 6th level, the final 6th level in the solo mode, and the 6th level in cooperation. Because with these 2 strong milestones, we can stop the development of the game and still be not lowering our game quality and have a strong experience in VR. With the first 6 levels, we can have a quite simpler experience than what you saw today, but we can have something very appealing and still juicy. With the final 6th level, we can have a very tougher experience and then have a difficulty and fullest experience in the solo mode. And then on the cooperation mode, we can have a partnership, for example, with VR arcade rooms, such as Sparkling VR in Paris, which is actually calling for projects. We have a target of young adults already in active life, interest in VR, and already our interest in possessing a full VR equipment in HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, or PlayStation VR. Our pricing of 26 euros is quite medium for the 5 lifetime experience in VR. So with this price, with our production with our production plan and the current VR market, we can be profitable in less than 2 years. But if we consider the prediction of the increase of VR headset possession, we can be profitable in less than a year. We are aiming to be a game which step up the game of indie game in VR markets. So we need to be, and we are, a full VR game. We are not a porting, we are not a licenses, we are a game meant to be in VR. We are a simulation game with a strong and precise gesture, which is very good for VR and very well known for the players in VR. We are also an indirect boss fight where we can show that not only strength, not only your fist is needed to beat a monstrous lord. We can use our brains and be still making tea and killing a giant lord. We have also no teleportation, which is very good for motion sickness, especially on Oculus Rift, and also good for our game accessibility. And then we have a genuine game world not seen at all in VR now. Thank you for your attention.
Questions?
Good job. I'm David from Telltale. The texture quality of the Lord that you have, it's hard to tell on this screen what it looks like in VR, but it felt fairly low resolution. Was that a performance decision, an aesthetic decision? What was the choice on the Lord?
So what you're meaning is maybe the picture you've seen in the presentation does not reflect the quality of the texture of the Lord, or
It's difficult to know on a big screen and a projector whether or not that's what the player is actually perceiving in quality, but it looked like the texture was roughly, well, I'm not even going to guess, but it seemed fairly low resolution.
Actually, for the texture, it's a 4K.
It is a 4K.
It's pretty big, and as a player, you mainly see his face. So
right.
this is when we made the texture, we made sure the face were a very big part of the UV when we made the Lord. But I think this is partly due to the quality of the screen, and I think the best solution is you come and put the VR headset.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Some more questions? Ni vous, ni vous, ni vous.
J'ai juste une question parce que j'ai peut-être pas tout bien compris. Le bois, il est ad libitum. En fait, il ne représente pas non plus une gestion du temps, par exemple. On a toujours du bois. Et en fait, le principe est de laisser le chaudron à ébullition. C'est ça ? Le bois, en fait, n'est pas un gameplay en soi. C'est le fait d'alimenter le fourneau. Mais l'eau, elle bout à 100 degrés. Et le thé, la majorité du thé, on le prend à 85 degrés.
C'est exact. C'est pour ça que, en fait, quand on gère la chaleur, il ne faut pas non plus mettre trop de bois, sinon le thé va devenir trop chaud.
Voilà.
Il ne faudrait pas brûler le thé.
D'accord, très bien. J'avais pas saisi bien la nuance. Ok, merci.
So it was really nice. I just have a quick question. It's about annoyance because you speak a lot about it, and we've seen it at the end screen. But how is it computed, and how can we see it when you play it, if the Lord is annoyed or not?
So the Lord has an annoyance gauge that is filled by the player's actions. So, for example, what you made a mistake, you let your ingredients fall in the floor, or you take a poisonous ingredient, and the Lord sees you. His gauge is gonna increase. So you don't have to make a mistake, and this gauge is not visible for the player, but there is the music, the ambience, and also the sound of the Lord will be more and more present, and you can hear that it is more and more angry, upset. Yeah.
And boss fights are mainly based on discovering what the pattern of the boss you're fighting is, and in the case of Killing there is some hints of what the Lord is currently feeling that you have to catch, and that can be sometimes quite subtle. Like for example, this Lord has some light on his face, and they change of color when he's angry or suspicious and everything. So some feedback are quite obvious, like for example the sounds, but some can be also more difficult for the player to catch.
May I ask, when you ask a question, just present you.
I'm Lou from Zobo Studio. During the development phase, did you think about narration in any sense? Because each lord has a very definite character, and have you thought about narration, basically?
First, each boss were inspired by a specific myth or a piece of folklore. So there's definitely narration inspiring us, but we didn't want it to be too plot heavy, you know. So this is a boss fight, and this is designed to feel kind of epic, and so there is not like we have a short cutscene in the beginning, but we didn't need, in our opinion, to be too heavy on it. So we have had several ideas to maybe hint some piece of narration, like for example, some ingredients can have a meaning, like a certain type of flower can mean something in a different culture, but it will never be too heavy because this is not the focus of our game. But we've talked about.
Hearing the Lord's talk is the one thing I would have wanted with that Lord, hearing some, maybe not heavy narration, but 2 or 3 lines, and it really helps, I think, with the character.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Our last question, if somebody. Vous. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oui, on ne sait pas qui c'est.
Ouais, tu l'as débranché? Il est pas rebranché, je crois. L'Oculus, il faut le brancher, il faut débrancher le HTC Vive. Ah bon? Ok, ben tant mieux. Vérifie si normalement tu as un écran là pour voir. Ouais, il faut lancer la build. Ah non, là t'es sur. Attends. Une seconde. Une seconde, hein. Bah là on est sur le PC de. On est sur le PC de build là, et faut qu'on passe. Je sais pas.
Là, en cet instant, on est
Ouais,
sur le PC build.
faut couper SteamVR, relancer la build. Il faut switcher ensuite.
Ça va commencer tout de suite et on s'excuse, on a un petit décalage parce qu'on a dû changer l'ordre. On avait prévu de faire la transition pendant l'heure du déjeuner. Et donc,
Ouais. On n'a pas de son sur le PC de Prez. Est-ce que ce serait possible d'en avoir, s'il vous plaît? Ce serait vraiment possible d'avoir du son sur le PC de Prez, qu'on n'en a pas, désolé. Ok, merci. Est-ce qu'on peut switcher sur le PC de Bill, s'il vous plaît? Merci.
I think we're done here. Try to go further inland. Looks like we're on a high spot. Better take advantage of it. On the rock, a Cardinalis tropicae. It's on our checklist. Don't lose it. It could be a great opportunity. Nice view. We could take some interesting pictures around here later. Whoa, pull the drone back, quick, quick, quick! Would you look at the size of that beast? Look at those giant eyes! How such a creature can even exist without anybody noticing it? Okay. Change of plans. I'm updating your checklist and transferring it. We're gonna shoot this bad boy under every angles. Don't lose it. Calm down, boy. It looks a bit like a whale, don't you think? This discovery will be a true bomb. With that, we'll have a spotlight of the archipelago for sure. Look, it's got scars on its tail. What creature can even threaten this mastodon? Nice shot! It dove! Damn it! We can't follow it! Try to go through the caves in that cliff. We can't lose it! It has to be somewhere. Over here! set down. It's now or never. We'll try to take close shots of its size and tiny details. Get as close as you can. Watch out! Damn it! Didn't have the time to transfer the high-quality pictures. Well, screw that. We still have amazing shots. We're gonna send it all to the medias. That will make the headlines for sure.
Hi everyone, we are Kaiju Snap team and it is our project and we are very happy to being able to showcase it here with you. Now that you've seen the demo, it's time to hop onto the full game. So in Kaiju Snap, you are one of two journalists and your mission is to unveil a mystery about an archipelago that was formerly used as a military test site. In order to do that, you have to fly in your drone because it's been declared a no-go zone. You arrive upon the island and you feel something is strange, the vegetation is different, it's odd, and you eventually stumble upon this huge, majestic and gigantic creature. And now your mission is to frame it under every angle, to track it, and to go home with the story of a century. So Kaiju Snap is a VR solo game. It can be played on the Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, or PlayStation VR using your headset and a game controller. While we know some people might be prone to VR sickness, we've made significant efforts in order to really minimize that risk factor. And if you are old enough to use a VR headset, you will be able to play Kaiju Snap as well. So we wanted to make a game where intuitive drone controls give you the freedom of movement you need to just roam around and feel free to explore the island as you want. And with just moving your head around, you can frame the perfect shot. You can explore the island, these really gorgeous settings, and just capture the instant. So we drew inspiration from games like Pokemon Snap, Eagle Flight, and also Monster Hunter, and we had the down touch. And we believe that with the coming of recent photo modes in big AAA titles, now is really the time to make a game like ours.
So we've got two ways to control the drone. The first, the camera mode, is used to take picture in the game. You use the gamepad controller to pilot the drone and take picture, while the headset acts as a free camera. In the other mode, the spin mode, you just use the headset to pilot the drone, while your gamepad is using to control your speed. The spin mode is more efficient to travel faster across areas. Taking picture is our main feature. So the player can interact with his environment by using a flash or play sound of animal encountered. The drone has a limited picture slot in its memory cards. It can upload and save those pictures on some specific place called hidespot. Once they are saved on the hidespot, they go to the cloud. If the drone is destroyed, all the pictures on the memory cards are lost, while those on the cloud remains. The question of the wildlife has been asked during the last presentation. So for information, we've got a fauna reacting to the presence of the drone and other species with a relationship system. All of our species have different needs that make them live autonomously. For example, this bird is afraid of the drone. If he encounters the drone, well, its trigger need its need of security will be triggered, and it will fly to a secure area. We wrote some rules about how to control the player experience and how to make a good level for Kaiju Snap. For example, we set a limited height to the drone Or we give scale references and create a human-sized environment, and after that put the creature in to have this feeling of gigantism. We also give environment reference to the player to help him orientate to the level, and create player paths to have often this bottom view of the creature. We also have some don'ts rule, like don't let the player see the creature from too far away, or avoiding have too many and too long corridors. We are progressing in the game, alternating confined and more open spaces. New mechanics like the flash or the play sound brings new challenge and difficulty to our experience. While from area to area, new fauna and flora appears and bring diversity to our challenges. In Kaiju Snap, we are using the game mechanics, the experience duration, the difficulty balance to structure an environment progression to really structure our game experience. As I say, we've got two types of areas. Tracking area, where you can take picture of the wildlife and search for hints, and creature zone, where you're gonna encounter the creature and take picture of it. Those areas are based on the average time session for VR player. It's around 30 minutes. And tracks and creature zone have a similar time period. For tracking areas, it's about 30 minutes, and for creature zone, it's around 15 minutes of game. About the vertical slice we just saw, it's an entire playfield while the player encounters the creature for the first time. It will follow it through river, caves, and canyons. The map is based on an alveolus system and alternate, like I said, closed space and more open space. We started at the end of a tracking area and we'll enter in our first creature zone. We've got elements like the bird we follow or the coconut trees close to the creature to have this size scale comparison for this first apparition.
For the creature, we quickly got away from the Japanese monsters that the title suggests to follow a more biological inspiration. We wanted the kaiju to convey the feeling of marvel, and we were greatly interested in sea slugs and caterpillars because they often wear very impressive and colorful features. To add a sense of scale, we also added features of whales on the kaiju, and he has folds of skins that are typical of big mammals. The kaiju is a placid animal peacefully roaming the island, and some of its body parts have its own purpose. For example, the face-like mark on its tail is used to drive away even bigger predators. Its main body part is animated using keyframes to have a full control on its behavior and to give consistency to its movements. Its tentacles and horns are both animated using keyframes and also physics, so it will react accordingly to the kaiju's movements and accelerations. To make it even more believable, we added an IK system, so it will walk accordingly to the terrain steepness. And when the action requires it, the kaiju might stare at the player, and all of this allows us to make it truly plausible in its environment and create a sense of presence, not only as an observer, but also as an actor that can actually interact with the beast. For this first episode, we wanted to create an island paradise in which we would start in a credible environment, inspired by the Caribbean with sandy beaches and lush tropical treetops. And as the player explores the island, we wanted him to discover a more fantasy and mysterious environment, suggesting him that it is actually not a simple and normal island and that he may also encounter some strange creatures too. And so for the typical jungle environment, we created typical vegetation and landscapes you can find in the Caribbean, like big sandy beaches with high palm trees, a blue ocean, corals and algae under the sea, and a lush jungle with big barks and big trees, and very green atmosphere, and lianas around the trees, and very green grass and plants. And for the most mysterious and fantasy environment, we created stranger shapes of trees in a bluish lighting to make it feel organic yet stylized. And the colors of the barks and the leaves looking more like the one the kaiju displays, as if the kaiju was here for so long that he actually had an impact on its environment and as it evolved and grew up itself.
So I will now touch on the production part. So as of today, the VR market seems promising. We have more than 4 million headsets in the hands of consumers, and according to Superdata, that figure should double by the end of the year, up to more than 8 million. And that same rise should also be applicable to game sales figures, ranging from 500,000 million, US dollars, up to more than 1 billion in game sales revenues alone. And it's also interesting to take a look at the average price from January to this year. The average price is really volatile, and it really shows that there's not a set price on how much an experience in VR should cost. So that can give us an opportunity to try new business models and new approaches. So Superdata also states that players are hungry for feature-rich VR experiences and content. If you take a look at the top-earning PC VR and PSVR games of 2017, you find games that are often priced more than $30. And it's really interesting to see that players are ready to put forth the money if they have a high-value proposition in return. And that's exactly what we want to do with Kaiju Snap. So we are building an episodic IP in VR, and we want to do this with a modular approach. The idea is that each episode can be played independently, but if you play the whole episode, you will have a complete story about how humankind encountered those big creatures, how they reacted, how the press reacted, the militaries, and things like that. But in and of itself, each episode is really a modular experience, but a complete story in and of itself, calling back to other episodes and teasing you for more content. And of course, we have bonus content if you buy all the episodes. So what do we have in one episode? With the build we just showed, we have a vertical slice that is strong enough. We've built the tools to create easily massive amount of landscape and terrain. The idea is that we have the tools needed to create large amount of vegetation just by seeding what we already have. So making a new island basically comes down to the creature design, how we are going to implement it into the world and the symbiosis that there is between the two. And obviously, we create a drone, we create a new narrative for the player to experiment. That means new features for the drone, a new character, and so on. So now concerning one episode, the idea is that we can basically make one episode after the other, and for about an average of 8 months of production, we can produce 2 to 3 hours of content with a budget ranging from 300,000 to 400,000 euros, depending on who we hire and how we pay them. But basically, we would be around 9 people, full-time employees, and 3 to 4 freelance artists and sound designer. Our price point would be modest for the first episode. It would be $10, and that would allow us to recoup our initial investment at a break-even point at 70 units sold. But why should you publish Kaiju Snap? Well, for once, the combination of a really strong drone controls, the drone mechanics we have, and the photo features allow us to create a very unique experience that really sets apart our game from the rest of the VR market. We also want to create a very immersive environment that the player can just go into, and that can also be credible because it reacts with what you do. And lastly, we're creating episodes after episodes in order to build brand awareness and recognition over time with a subset of independent stories. But fair enough, a publisher might not want to fund all episode or the whole part of one episode. So we have to find secondary income that comes into business-to-business deals with companies like drone manufacturers or tourist attractions. Parrot has already done something like this with Pastor Games in 2012, and it shows that there's actually a market with good B2B deals that can give us some more funding to create our games. And also, it's worth noting that VR arcades are right now really looking for content to showcase, and creating one-shot experience or maybe content update plans for those VR arcades is really something that we can look into, because we have the tools to make 30 minutes or 20 minutes experience that's both entertaining and fulfilling in and of itself. So that's it for our presentation. I will ask the whole team to come down, and I would like you to give them a big round of applause. Thank you.
We just have time for a couple questions because we are running out of time. So,
Jérémy, Ubisoft, bravo. C'est un bon projet. Maintenant, le sujet qui fâche. Est-ce que vous pensez que le jeu il fonctionnerait aussi en dehors de la VR ?
Alors c'est intéressant parce qu'on y avait réfléchi, effectivement, et c'est surtout une histoire à la fois de contenu et à la fois de comment est-ce qu'on fait pour adapter l'expérience VR. Là, on vous a vraiment fait une presse qui fait que vous avez l'interface utilisateur, vous avez tout ce qu'il faut. Dans la réalité, être dans le casque, bien sûr, ça change tout. Ça peut être quelque chose on avait commencé à y réfléchir. Au final, on l'a mis de côté. C'est pas impossible qu'on puisse y revenir. Si quelqu'un...
Ok. Alors oui, c'est effectivement possible d'adapter ce jeu hors de la VR. Le problème, c'est que ça va pas du tout véhiculer les intentions qu'on avait au début, parce que justement, il faut évidemment venir le tester pour s'en rendre compte, mais tout l'aspect gigantisme qui peut y avoir autour de la bête, l'aspect vraiment se balader dans un environnement en 3 dimensions, ça change vraiment l'intérêt. Le jeu a beaucoup moins d'intérêt quand il n'est pas en VR, en fait, tout simplement. Voilà. Après, c'est pas impossible de l'adapter, mais il aurait beaucoup moins d'intérêt, beaucoup moins de valeur en tant que jeu.
Une autre question.
Ah bon?
C'est normal que vous n'ayez pas tous le même t-shirt. Et ça
Tout le monde n'était pas d'accord sur la couleur, donc on a préféré choisir chacun sa couleur. Voilà.
So I'm Jade from Ubisoft. You say one of your inspiration was Eagle Flight, and I remember in Eagle Flight when you crash against a wall, you have a kind of a blur, and it's very smooth to avoid to be very sick and to be very violent, and your game is very smooth and peaceful. How do you manage the destruction of the drone, or is it managed?
Okay. We took the example of Eagle Flight with the collision with high speed or something, in which there is a cut to black directly, because at first we tried to put a fade to black, and it caused motion sickness. So that's the main part we were inspired by.
Yeah, I think the conclusion we drew from Eagle Flight is that when you do a crash, you have to make it really fast and go to something black, so the player don't have any elements which he can refer to, and he doesn't have a problem with the internal ear, because it can be the brain can be wherever he wants in a black environment. So when the crash is direct, it allows the player not to feel too sick when he crashes. So our crash, we didn't show it in this demo, but our crash is like that. You have a direct black screen and some glitches, like the camera doesn't work, and after a few moments you have a fade from black back to the beginning of the episode.
On va arrêter là pour les questions. Merci beaucoup. Et j'appelle l'équipe d'Atomic Lemon. J'ai une question pour les membres du jury. Y a-t-il des membres du jury qui prennent le train de 17h30 ? D'accord. 3. On commandera un taxi de façon à ce que vous puissiez... Parce que comme on est très serré du point de vue temps...
Merci. C'est pas grave ça. Ça marche pas?
On peut faire un switch?
Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Il y a le truc de kaiju qui est en train de faire.
C'est bon, on re-switch?
Ah, il faut fermer le truc de verre.
Ouais, faut fermer ça aussi. Maintenant, on re-switch. Ouais, c'est bon, c'est bon.
Sorry about that. Hello everyone and welcome to the last presentation of our game Atomic Lemon. So I think we should just dive right in with the key elements of the game. So in Atomic Lemon you play as a young girl named Lemon. She lives in a favela and she was born and raised in this favela named Villa de Rondo, but lately her neighborhood has been invaded by a strange entity. So what happened was posters started to appear on the walls and the graffiti were being erased from the buildings, and most of all the inhabitants were being attacked and driven off the neighborhood. So the posters that were on the wall read Juin, and they were advertising for a renovation program that was supposed to destroy the favela in order to build a gentrified neighborhood. So Lemon decided to stay in the favela and to fight for her neighborhood. And so in her quest, she's being accompanied by a sidekick, which is the graffiti of a sloth that is moving alongside her on the walls. So Atomic Lemon is a 3D side-scrolling beat-em-up game in which you control both Lemon and the sloth, and it will be playable on PC with a gamepad or on consoles, and we are targeting players from the age of 15 to 25. So about the main character of our game, Lemon is a fierce young girl who was born and was raised in Villa de Rondo, and she's very protective of her favela because it's the only place that she ever knew. So her family was one of the only ones that stuck around when it was being invaded, And she knows the neighborhood like a back of her hand, which comes in handy because she can explore it and she can jump her way on platform and on rooftops in order to move forward. And she can also dash in the neighborhood in order to have access to the enemies quickly.
So to design Lemon, we had to incorporate the fact that she's a powerful fighter, and that's why we wanted to translate this phrase of a young girl who packs a mean punch literally into her design. And that is why from all the silhouettes we have come up with, we have decided with a small stocky silhouette with exaggerated fists and really big boots, because we think that those are her main features for fighting. And Lemon also has her fists, her boots, and her hair highlighted, so you always see her inside the scenery of the game. And for Lemon's animation, we have wanted to make her look very powerful and look like a master of the fighting arts, and that's why we turned to martial arts for references for her moves. And even though she already looks powerful, we wanted this to make the player feel even more rewarded when they deal a blow, and that is why when at the point of impact in the animation, her fists and her legs are scaled up so as to give her this kind of animation-y, cartoony look. And to go along with this aesthetic, this stylized aesthetic of Lemon, her sound design is far from this real soundscape, and all of her sounds feel powerful. And to make her go in sync with the music of the neighborhood, all of her sounds are triggered on the beat of a 100 beats per minute music, and that's a mix between hip-hop, bossa nova, and Brazilian batucada.
So for her fighting mechanics, the main way that Lemon is going to defend a favela is by actually punching and kicking the enemies. So the first thing that you can do in the game is you can press the X button to give a light hit, and you can accumulate your power and unleash a power kick with the Y button in order to create a powerful combo. And you can also stomp on the enemy by pressing the jump button and the left stick down. And the force of your stomp is going to depend on the height of your jump. So if you jump from a high building, you're going to have a really powerful stomp. And she's also able to counter the enemy attacks. So when an enemy is going to attack her, you can press the B button, and it's going to stun the enemy for a short amount of time. And then you are going to be able to chain with the combo. So Lemon's quest is to reclaim her ground as it's being invaded by a gentrifying entity. So the main way that you're going to reclaim your ground in the game is with street art. So each of the blows that you're going to deal in the game will create a graffiti on the wall behind you. So at the same time, you are fighting Juan, and you are also repainting and giving an act of rebellion against gentrification. But graffiti can also be a really powerful tool and a powerful weapon during the fights. So we have power-ups in the game. So the power-ups are created through graffitis that are fragmented on several props in the background. And as they are reformed, the sloth can activate them and give her a temporary bonus during the fights. So about the sloth. As I said before, he's a living graffiti that is moving on the walls, and he's her trusty sidekick, so he's going to help her during the fights. So it was created by Lemon as an act of rebellion. She decided to paint her favorite animal on the wall, but it started to move and to follow her around, and mostly it started to protect her during the fights. So that's its main purpose in the game. And it's really necessary to have the sloths because the enemies have a particular shape that makes them really efficient in invading the favela. So they are able to switch from a 3D plane to the walls. And so the sloth is able to counter the enemy charges when they are on the walls, and is also able to finish Lemon's combo in order to kill them off.
So to design the sloth, we know that technically the sloth is a graffiti, but it has to stand out from all the other ones that we put on the walls when we punch. So that is why we have decided on this simple and flexible silhouette that's in an off-white pinkish with clean and bold black lines to outline the whole silhouette. The sloth is laid back and kind of slow, but at the same time it has to be strong enough to protect Lemon and be her sidekick in this fight for her neighborhood. And that is why you can see that most of its walking animation and its actions are done with a happy face because it's kind of laid back. It's happy to follow her around, but when it needs to be, it can be a very fierce fighter, as you can see from the last animation we put here, that its face has changed. It can be fierce when it needs to be. As for the sound design, we wanted the sloth to have this kind of feel of protection and this feel of power when as it is inside its concrete jungle that is the walls of the favela. And that is why when it is activating its finish moves, for example, the whole soundscape will change according to the move that is done by the sloth.
So the enemy that you have to find in the game, as I've introduced you a bit before, are not a singular being, but really a proteroform entity that is invading the favela in order to gentrify it. So they have two different forms, and when they are in the arena, they are a 3D, dark, fluid, and human-like creature that is going to attack Lemon and to fight her. And you have roughly two types of enemies in the arena in the vertical slice. You have an enemy named Luta, which is the enemy that is going to fight Lemon hand-to-hand on the ground. And you have the enemy named Bala, which is the enemy that is going to shoot projectiles to Lemon from a far distance. And so when the enemy is weak enough, it's going to flee to the walls and to attack the sloths. So when they are on the wall, they are shapeless blood that is going to move really quickly and is going to dash on the sloth to attack it. So the sloth is able to counter this attack and is also able to finish the combo of Lemon to kill them.
So for the enemies, we didn't want this to be a fight between people. We want this to be more of a fight between a person or a concept and another concept that this time is gentrification. And that is why we have decided on this kind of blobby silhouette, even though humanoid, but still not actually defined as a real human being. And in its 3D form, when it is fighting Lemon, this is the type of enemy we have come up with, a type of dark fluid-like viscous thing that is between tar and black paint, and it's highlighted so as to not be totally unseen during the fights, but at the same time black enough to make it feel like it doesn't belong in this colorful and vivid neighborhood. And we have different types of minions that are inside the game, and they are differentiated by their morphology and their specific animations, and also by a slight color change that will help you identify their different patterns in the game. When they are on the walls, we wanted to keep a kind of correlation between this form and the 3D form, and that is why we came up with this stain-like substance that is really dark purple, and so it goes with the color that we came up before. And at the same time, we conserved these big big white eyes that are menacing stares, so as to remind the way they were looking at you in the 3D phase.
So the main way that the sloth is going to really interact with the enemy on the walls is with the counter, as I've said before. So when a joueur is weak enough, he's going to switch to the wall and is going to dash through the sloth to attack it. So the sloth can counter it, and you have to press the LT and the B button to send it back to the arena. And when an enemy has a really low health bar, he's going to flee to the wall one last time to attack the sloth and to get a refuge. So when the enemy is blinking like this, it means it's going to die. So you have to press the LT button and the Y button in order to finish it.
So now that we've talked about the characters, we should all wrap this up in the setting of the game that is Lemon's favela. And from the start, we know that we wanted vivid and flamboyant colors in these neighborhood. Even though they're run down, they should still feel like there are people living in there, and there's this liveliness that comes out of it. And from the reference photos we used during our research phase, we looked at favelas from Rio de Janeiro, and the thing that stood out was this sense of verticality and disorganization that we find in these types of neighborhood. And that is what, during our research phases and in the end during our modelization phases, as you can see with our 3D houses, we have tried to conserve this kind of organized and stacked twisting and turning houses that basically are still magically standing even though they feel like they should not be. And we've decided on different colorful color swaps for these houses to add to the diversity of the level. And as you can see inside the game, we have also added more modular things that can be placed onto the house to diversify them even more. For example, windows, doors, curtains, and also procedural assets such as power poles and pipelines that will help link all of the houses to blocks together. And also because there are special needs inside the game, we have a more platform phase that you can use to explore the neighborhood with more busy looking houses. And at the same time, on the right, you can see an arena phase that we had to tone down on these roughed edge and these busy looking things, so as you can actually focus on the fight and see what's happening on the walls. And all of this neighborhood is put inside a soundscape of music that's on a 100 beats per minute. It's a mix between hip-hop sampling and bossa nova, and it helps you feel a kind of attachment to this neighborhood.
So now that we've talked about all the elements of the game, I'm really happy to let our game designer, Benjamin, play the game. And, and I will comment it a little bit. La lumière, s'il vous plaît.
So we've gone with this kind of yellowish, pinkish light to show this humid and hot temperature that is inside this neighborhood.
So we have a platform phase at the beginning of the slice, so you can really see the depth and the height of the neighborhood, and you can actually jump and dash to go to the further platforms. But soon enough, you are going to see your first arena and the first enemy fights. So the enemy has switched to the wall because it was weak enough, and now we can counter its attack when it's going to dash through the slot. So now Benjamin has missed his counter, so he has taken damage on his health bar, and now I'm sure that he's going to succeed. Good. So now we have finished off the enemy, and we can press LT and Y to kill him. As you can see, each of the blows that you're going to give to the enemy is going to create a graffiti on the wall. So as you are fighting the waves of enemy, you are also repainting your whole neighborhood and reclaiming your ground.
And it's also dependent, the size of the graffiti is also dependent on how much energy you have charged for your kick, and that is why if you haven't charged enough, you actually don't get a graffiti. At a medium level, you get a small one, and the more you charge, the bigger the graffiti becomes.
As you've seen, the enemy are spawning through the posters, and when you are done,
the posters goes away.
Yeah. So now we can move forward in the level, but we are going to be blocked by a structure that was placed here by João. And so we are going to be able to use a power-up that I was talking about before. So if you're in the right perspective, you can actually activate it and blow up the structure. as you can see with this arena, we tried to give a sense of verticality and a sense of height. So that's why the posters are on platforms that are going higher and higher, and you have to go up to finish the level. As you can see, all of the blows that you give can have a direction. So if you use the left stick and press it up, you're going to send the enemy in the air. If you press it down, you're going to crush them on the ground, and so on. So we hope you enjoy the vertical slice of our game. And now we want to talk a little bit about what we had in mind for the whole experience. So we want the game to be roughly 5 hours long, and we try to divide it into 3 parts that are going to be the 3 main narrative elements of the game. So in the first phase, which is called the battle phase, it's actually where you have the vertical slice. You have the first elements of the invasion of Juan, so you have Juan invading your neighborhood, and you are going to fight waves of enemies in order to eliminate it. And at the end of this phase, you are going to discover that there are other favelas that are being invaded by a similar entity. So you are going to be able to meet the children from other favela and to give them your help. So it's the biggest phase of the game, which is called the Unity of Favelas. And you are going to be able to visit 3 favelas and get a new ability at each favela to defeat a boss. So for example, you are going to get a super weapon that is going to shoot big projectiles that are really powerful and to have a higher fire rate, for example. And at the end of this phase, when you have defeated all the 3 bosses of the favela, you are able to go to Juan headquarters, and you are going to be able to fight really the heart of his threats. Hello everyone. So to finish the design and to finish the whole experience until the final release of the game, we will need to work on these 5 different aspects that you can see on the screen. First, the level design. We will definitely need to make this 5 hours experience interesting. We will need to work on the level design and make it interactive and such. Combat system, also we will have to work on this. We will need an overall rework on it, and we will need to implement new features, new combo, new feedbacks to make it more diverse and more interesting to play, but even more fun to play in the end. The AI is also a big aspect of our work, because we will need to rework on the existing AI that we already implemented, and also implement new AI that are the heavy AI, the fast AI, and the last but not least, the five bosses that Lemon will encounter and fight in the end. So our experience as during these 4 months led us to create tools and methodologies to work efficiently on the project. And we are now able to tell you that we are ready to work on these 9 months of the 9 next months to realize the project and to make it work in the end. So the big aspect of the work will be the 5 bosses. It will make 7 to 9 months to design and to test. We have put a lot of work on testing every of our features during these 4 months, and it will stay like this for the next 9 months of the production. The target we are seeking are 2 different categories. The first category is the most valuable one. It's the core target, and we are seeking a moderate to hardcore gamers target, and we also know that this category of people like dynamic and instantly fun games. And the second target we are seeking are called the graphics lovers, and they tend to love art and stay in touch with it in their everyday life, and they tend to be more casual gamers. The 4 P's for the marketing strategy are the following. So we are a beat 'em up game. We want it to be instant fun to control and instant fun to watch. And we also have this 2D to 3D interaction that differentiate ourselves on a really saturated market. And we also have this strong art direction that we really believe in. The distribution, we want the game to be accessible on any PC and console digital media store. We want to set up our Atomic Lemon website, which is already online, and we will definitely work on our SEO. We will work on the online shop to let the players be able to buy any game-related goods, and also to work on our communication, because we want to set up a social campaign linked on our website to let our players know about the news of the game, and we will also implement an in-game news features that will let the players know about the street art events we are participating in, as well for the Indie Game Festival. For the price, so we want a game that is based on the market standards, so it's 14.99 euros, and you will have access to the full experience. We don't want any in-game price wall, we just want the game to have cosmetics content that will be DLCs, and we want to capitalize mostly on our crazy universe with our online shop. The future of the project, we have 2 different scenarios. So the first one is to pitch the project to an editor. We will need 300K production costs, and we will be 12 employees to work on the project. We'll need 9 months, as I told you just before, and with a 14.99 price, we will have a break-even point of 40K units. The other solution is to start our own business, and for this we will definitely need the help of Enjmin Project Incubator, and also find some investments. So it would be a great idea to set up a crowdfunding campaign or look out for some investors. And if the game is really working well and selling well, we will definitely capitalize on our crazy universe by setting up a merchandising campaign. So I'm going to wrap up this presentation by letting you see the trailer of the game. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now I will invite the rest of the team to join us on stage. And if you have any question, don't hesitate.
Questions. I would like to ask the next group to come and install during answering of questions.
Hello.
Hello.
David from Telltale again. So you've got this very interesting 2D to 3D transition, and you use it basically to go from one phase of fighting to another phase. That seems to be the only use of it. It feels like there's a huge opportunity. This is a really cool, unique mechanic that you have, and it feels like, oh, now I'm in 2D, now I'm in 3D. Do you have further ideas, further things you want to do to extend that or intermix those?
Yes, so for the vertical slice, we really wanted to showcase our combat system, and we really wanted to focus on that. And the 2D to 3D is a big part of this combat system. But we've also we've also wanted to develop features that really use this kind of mechanics. So for example, we have the power-ups that we have shown a little bit in the slice, but there will be really a key importance of the final game. So each of the children from the favela that you are going to meet in the big phase of the game is going to give you a new power-up that you are going to be able to use in different phases of the game. So it's going to be a big aspect of our game, but we also wanted to try to work on other way to use this mechanic. But right now, for the slice, we wanted to really focus it on the combat system. Thank you.
So Jade again from Ubisoft. It's kind of the same question. It's how do you manage the controller? Because sometimes you play as Atomic Lemon and sometimes you play as a slot. So I understand that when you are in 3D, you're playing the girl, and when you're in 2D, you're playing the animal. But how do you manage if, for example, you have 3 enemies, 2 in 2D and 1 in 3D, for example? I mean, is it 2 controllers? And just another question also is, do you think about this game playing with two players? I mean, which is will it be possible to play at 2 or not?
Okay, so for the first question, we actually only use 1 controller in the entire game. And when you want to play with the slots, you actually have to press the LT button. And as soon as you have this press, you can use the slots action in the fighting elements, in the fighting phases. So you never have to change really to switch to a different controller, to switch to a different part of the controller, because you just have to press the LT button and then you have access to the slots action. And for the second question, we thought about making a 2-player game at the beginning, but we really would have to focus more on finding new interaction for the sloths. Because right now, the challenge is to be able to focus on both Lemon and the sloths. And if we think it's what makes it really interesting and really challenging. So if we had to make it a 2-player game, we would have to find other interaction that would be as challenging for both players. So it's really a 1-player game right now, but I think that's something that could be possible.
Thierry, Bip Media again. I didn't understand last time the reason of this fight, but now I'm a little bit shocked. I have a problem, in fact, with the story and the message of your game. Nobody wants to defend favela, in fact. It's an horrible place to live. And even the people who live, even the younger who live there, don't want to live there, in fact. So I think it's a very touchy subject. And you play with it on a very light manner. And for me, it's a problem, honestly. I think you can change it very easily. I mean, she can fight for other reason, for water in the favela or whatever. But for now, honestly, it's a little bit shocking.
Okay, so what we wanted to show with this story, we know that the favela is a really dangerous and harmful place people live in, but it's actually a beautiful place that the inhabitants really love and want to protect because it's a community. And what is happening right now in Brazil and other slums around the world is it's being completely destroyed, and the inhabitants are being driven off the favelas and the slums, and they never find new places to live. So that's the focus of this story. It's how gentrification is going to destroy those kind of communities and how there are no tools to fight back because they are fighting with richer people. So that's the main focus of our game. I understand that we are playing it, we have a light take on it, but we are really conscious of the kind of social problems that you have in the favelas, but our story is mainly focused on gentrification and how the people can fight it using some things like street art or other things.
And you can see from the color of my clothes that I am a gentrification guy. Other question? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Excuse-moi, j'ai pas vu.
Please.
Alors, tout d'abord, bravo pour avoir véritablement travaillé les animations qui sont beaucoup plus efficaces dans les punchs et qui, du coup, sont vraiment bien rythmiques avec la musique. Bravo aussi au fait que dans la musique qui est localisée dans l'endroit, on retrouve dans le fight des bouts de la musique qu'on vient de quitter. Je trouve ça super malin. Bravo. Après, moi, oui, vous pouvez les applaudir, hein, franchement. Comme je suis un peu neuneux, moi j'aime bien quand c'est intelligent. Après, bon, on a l'impression que les Brésiliens sont tous repartis au Portugal. Il n'y a personne dans la rue, il n'y a pas une poubelle, il n'y a pas une vieille voiture qui est dans un coin. Alors voilà, là il y a peut-être un petit effort de painting et puis de background. Et puis le truc aussi, et ça y est, j'ai perdu. J'ai dit un mot en anglais, c'est terminé. Ah, le poisson rouge, c'est monstrueux. Non, c'est que je voyais les ennemis beaucoup moins cernés au niveau des... On dirait que c'est vraiment de l'encre, mais bubble, quoi. Alors que je pensais que ça serait plus, finalement, de l'encre chinoise, de Chine, en fait. Et que petit à petit, plus on les tapait, plus ils s'effaçaient, plus... voilà. Alors que là, ils restent tout le temps. Donc moi, je m'ennuie un peu à regarder les combats, parce qu'ils sont un peu tous les mêmes. Donc une fois qu'on en a tapé un, on en a tapé 15. Je te refile mon micro.
Non,
si tu veux.
je crois que c'est bon. Voilà. Je pense que clairement, il y a un travail à faire sur la diversification des ennemis encore, pour justement en plus avoir des choses plus engageantes pour la totalité du jeu en fait, qui durera beaucoup plus longtemps. Et là, pour l'instant, pour l'aspect bubbly en fait dont vous parlez, c'était plus parce qu'on voulait quand même avoir quelque chose d'un peu, enfin, soi-disant un peu dégoûtant. Et pas forcément très... Enfin, c'est joli, mais on n'a pas envie d'y toucher non plus. Et on veut que ce soit vraiment quelque chose qui... Une sorte de parasite, en fait, dans ce monde-là. Et c'est pour ça que j'avais pas forcément envie de faire quelque chose de très joli, très fluide non plus. Bon, c'est moins dégoûtant, quand même, pour le coup.
Dans la même lignée, du coup, est-ce que vous avez pensé que, comme elle tape, elle fait des graffitis, donc elle revendique en gros visuellement ce qu'elle fait, quand les ennemis, eux, la tapent, parce qu'on l'a pas vu se faire beaucoup taper, et mis à part la barre de vie, qui on suppose doit baisser, est-ce que du coup il y a un impact sur les décors, et donc du coup, en gros, est-ce que ça clean pas la zone, ou ça, voilà, que ça devient de plus en plus neutre?
Alors, à l'heure actuelle, ce qui se passe en fait quand la barre de vie descend, c'est qu'on a une désaturation complète de l'écran en fait, et du coup ça donne l'impression qu'on est vidé de couleurs littéralement quand on joue. Et en même temps, je pense que dans le futur, si on continue à travailler sur le projet, il y a aussi un travail à faire sur l'évolution du décor par rapport à l'avancée du jeu en fait. Et je pense que là, on a déjà un quartier, et du coup déjà diversifier voilà, l'évolution du décor dans ce quartier, mais aussi dans le jeu en fait, avoir plus on avance dans les quartiers, plus les quartiers sont peut-être infestés par cette chose, que du coup plus ils sont sales et que plus c'est difficile en fait de les nettoyer, enfin nous-mêmes de les enlever quoi. Et je pense que voilà, ça se traduira peut-être mieux dans la slice, enfin dans le jeu complet aussi.
Au niveau du gameplay aussi, les ennemis qui sont sur le mur,
Vous avez vu les power-up, ils les effacent en fait quand ils passent dessus. Du coup, ouais, ça peut, si on s'en occupe pas assez vite, ils peuvent gêner les modes dans son, enfin les effacer et du coup l'empêcher d'avancer plus loin.
Oui, alors il y a Thierry. Voilà Thierry, ça sera mieux. Effectivement, il y a un petit manque de challenge, hein, un peu général, voilà. Mais je voudrais quand même vous féliciter vraiment pour la qualité de votre travail, vous et les précédents qui sont passés, parce que ça, on l'entend pas assez, je trouve. Vous faites de l'excellent travail. Vos démos, elles sont vraiment abouties. Quand on sait le temps que vous avez eu pour le faire, c'est franchement exceptionnel. Voilà. Faut que quelqu'un vous le dise. C'est vraiment très bien.
Et donc, il n'y a absolument plus rien à rajouter. On passe au groupe suivant.
Est-ce qu'on peut couper les lumières, s'il vous plaît?
The world has changed for the worse. The ill tide has made its appearance, infiltrating every water source known. For years, the people furthest from it thought they were safe, but it was just a matter of time. It is now threatening our lives insidiously, drop after drop. From amongst the bravest of us, through a long and painful process, 3 inhabitants are selected to battle this foe. Only the purest are chosen, as they are the ones the best suited to resist the ill tide's effects. Many trials await them. Only by uniting can they expect to defeat it. Together, their journey begins.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. We're going to present to you Illtide, which is the project we've been working on for the past 4 months. First we will talk about the general concept of the game, then we will go further into game design and art direction, and then we will talk about the business model of the game. In Illtide, 3 players impersonate the 3 characters you've seen a glimpse of in the trailer, as they are the best suited to resist the Illtide. Each of these characters has a specific skill that you must combine in order to fight the powerful creatures that you'll come across during your journey. And the main goal of the game is to resist the Illtide that is spreading by confronting its bearers by uniting. Illtide is a third-person 3D action-adventure game. It's a boss rush type. 3 players play online. And it is playable both on PC and consoles. This game is based on a premium business model. Since Illtide have fantasy violence and blood depiction, it is considered to be PEGI 12, and we developed our game using Unreal Engine 4. We designed the experience to fit the expectation of two types of customers: the multiplayer fan, who looks for a great team play experience to play with his friends, as the game holds a strong online dimension, and also the action-adventure fan, who looks for an interesting cooperative quest, as the game follows the rule of an action-adventure game. On top of that, the Hilltide is a game offering a real challenge, which is attracting both mid-core and hardcore gamers.
Now, yes. Now that we told you what the game is in a nutshell, we're going to go more in depth into the overall game design of the game. So in the game, in Hilltide, you will play as one of these three unwilling heroes chosen to resist the Hilltide. Their differences come from their adaptation from the different parts of the valley where they grew up. Each character has its own gameplay characteristic, which are coherent with the overall design, their culture and folklore, but also their colorful embodiments. Equipped with a sword, you can fight the roaming mobs and destroy part of the environments. While the sword fighting mechanics isn't the principal mechanic of the game, we wanted to emphasize on cooperation by the use of skills and abilities. These skills are based on environmental elements and are unique to each player character. To tell you more about that, Avel is the master of wind and can create tornadoes that can throw away enemies. Kareg is the master of rock or earth and can create flaming rocks that can alone stun enemies. And Olius is the master of petrol or oil, and he can create tar puddles that that when walking on will slow down enemies. All these skills are useful alone, but what makes Hilltide unique is the ability to combine those skills to create more powerful effects. For example, you can combine wind and petrol to create to throw oil and create a trail of oil on its path, but also create a flaming tornado by combining all three skills. Each player will have two skill trees to upgrade their capabilities. One of them is more general and common to all players and will be here to improve health, regeneration, and resistance. And the second one will be unique to each player and will improve their skills and ability, both its forms, its effects, and the way to combine them. Players will be able to communicate with each other using a voice chat, but also using a communication wheel. This communication wheel will allow players to cheer their mates, ask for help, or ask for retreat, or ask to combine elements. This will be very important as to win and fight against boss in the game. Because all these abilities and skills are aimed to one unique goal, confronting the bearers of the Hilltide and experiencing boss fights that will need players to master their abilities and skills against one common enemy. These boss fights are based around a weak point mechanic, so it will ask players to dodge incoming attacks, different scheme of attacks, until they can find a way and an attack to counter using their skills to combine. Or to further encourage cooperation against a monster. Once they succeed this counter-attack, they will be able to fight back and attack this monster to defeat it. Each bosses will have their own challenges and different elements that make them unique to the player, and each player will have the right moment and the right time to be the right tool of destruction. We are now going to present you a video of the gameplay of the game, where players will confront Stankel, the Hilltide bearer of the Lake Territory. Thank you. The three heroes know that the heart of the Hilltide lies in a distant territory, so they will have to defeat 5 major bosses called the Hilltide Bear in order to push back the influence of the Hilltide and go further. These 5 bears have weaknesses or immunity against some elements in keeping with the territories they stride. The next encounter will be against a huge snow golem that attack players using the surround snow to create avalanche, ice spears, and rocks as its armor. Then a monster at the origin of the thunderstorm threatening the region, representing the unbelievable synergy between water and electricity. A heavy mole that can find its way to anything. It can take advantage of its visibility ability to stealth attack the player, but player can counterattack by using hold to reveal its steps. Finally, we have the flying monstrosity that is living in harmony in this hostile, warm and humid environment that will use its army of flying bird mobs to attack the player. All in all, player will explore 4 different territories. They will have to go through and encounter new tribes, and each time defeating the local Hilltide bearer. Every time they succeed, the impact of the Hilltide decreases and the passage becomes reachable. Reaching the end of this journey, the heroes will travel back to their homeland, only to be facing one last monster at the heart of the Hilltide.
Now about the choices we took concerning art direction. Throughout the game, we follow the characters during the journey, one that exhausts them emotionally and physically. The starting point tells us about the general atmosphere. The hero lives far from theirs, but they have been chosen and encouraged since birth to complete this quest. They must appear small and weak in front of what's coming, but also determined to do anything to save their world and their loved ones. They will confront the deterioration of what they know, and it is from their point of view that we discover the world, a candid, young and fiery point of view. For this particular reason, we chose a stylized art direction, which is also more suitable for the wide audience that we aim. Since they come from villages with distinct culture, their weapons are different. Each sword has different whoosh effects and sound impacts to highlight these changes. Their different expressions help the player to identify to its character, and their voices make them more alive, encourages empathy. Nature in Hilltide is a mix of different natural locations on Earth. Mountains are preponderant in Hilltide. They serve as passages from an ecosystem to another. For them, we were influenced by the French cirque of Navacelle and also by rivers from Pyrenees and Ardèche. Our first concepts were mixed with Canadian burnt forests damaged by uranium mining. But each of these territories has a biome and a precise identity marked by the impact of the Hilltide. Here is, for example, the ice territory, almost completely desertic, apart from the huge igloo that you can see, where the inhabitants of this territory live. As a challenge, we wanted to push the boundaries of conventional adventure game representation by using pink, which is an unusual color to convey an interpretation of evil. It served the experience by proposing an original color, giving a strong identity to the world of Hilltide, and providing a visual help to orient players. But players must avoid touching any state of corrupted water, as it deals damage when near from it. In order to feel a progression all along the environment, it is necessary to have contrast inside every habitat, from peaceful location with natural color saturation to fully bright pinkish settings. For example, the environment shown in the vertical slice is inspired by a tribal-like society. The arena has its own acoustic environment with reverb and drones that come from the corrupted statue. Its ambience is warlike thanks to its pinkish fog and reddish tones. The more the world is corrupted, the more synthetic the soundscapes are. But when a source is unbound, nature around becomes pure again and its splendor is renewed. Life blooms, but not immediately. We must feel that it's a long process, and what that the characters have done is just implanting the seeds of renewal, just like a forest that regrows after a fire. When an arena is purified, the soundscapes are more peaceful and organic. The players will discover different sound treatment of corruption depending the environment, as well as an affecting of the character's perception. As for the music in the game, interactivity plays an important part to rhythm the boss fights. Here, in echo to the tribal aspects of the characters, and for the arena, the music expresses the duality between corruption and purification. Tribal chords instruments are mixed with heavy synthetic percussions and synth with a long reverb time. 3 music layers follow each phase of the boss, helping the player to understand his or her success and managing a melodic progression of the music. It is very neutral and disturbing at the start, but it progresses to a more melodic and synthetic aspect at the end. The melodic part followed the minimalist art direction with a simple raw flat motif and minimal orchestration that it discovered at the last layer. Now we will tell you more about the business model of the game.
Hi everyone. So I will get more in detail about the business part of our game. So first of all, I would like to have a few words about the production process we've been through. For the last 4 months, we've been working on a first playable prototype with a team of 10 to 13 people. Basically, what we have now is the first boss fight combat, and what we worked for the last 4 months is the whole pipeline, visually on the sound aspect and as well as game and level design, to reproduce that through the production phase to get up to 5 major boss fights with the whole environment and as well as narration and the whole world design to get a whole experience of up to 15 hours. We plan to release the game in March 2019, which would mean 16 months of complete development. Why so? Because we know we do not mean to reach the level of communication which could be done for a AAA game, so we don't want to compete with games going ahead for Christmas. So we will try to get the game released just before Easter holidays, which is big holidays in France, Europe, and US in general. Through that, we hope to have better visibility and less concurrency to get more attention from the public and from the medias. The whole game would need approximately 1 million euros to develop, considering the fact that we go up to 20 people for production because we have a lot of content to create. If we just get an eye on the market of action-adventure games, and more specifically the ones proposing a part of multiplayer experience, we see that a lot of them are very famous and sold millions of copies, which doesn't mean we are sure to do the same, but it means that there is a real interest of the public in this type of product. Moreover, if we get an eye on stats, we realize that people from US and Europe are big fans of action-adventure games, and if we just get an eye on recent data about how much this segment gave as turnover, we realize that just for consoles in 2015 in Europe, we go up to 57 million euros, which means if we take in consideration PC and the US, we could have a real opportunity to sell the game. Then, considering the fact that if we get at the most selling games in the world for the last years, we see a lot of online multiplayer games, which could be a really great possibility for us to distribute our game. So what makes our game different? First of all, we're offering a challenging boss rush system, which is something which exists already, but if you combine that with a really synergy-based action gameplay, you offer a really new challenge. And then we also have a very original lore, which means people will remember our game and will really feel it's something different they never saw before. Altogether, we aim to offer a unique multiplayer experience to the players. They will remember it, they will recommend to their friends, they will play again over and over years. How will we sell it? We plan for mostly dematerialized platforms such as Steam and as well on consoles. The idea is to offer the game for 20 years, which is the average price for, let's say, AA action-adventure games. Then we will bet a lot on a triple pack bundle, because this strategy has been used before by Trying 2 and 3, games such as Gauntlet or Broforce, which are mostly multiplayer games, and it worked very well, and the sales were increased a lot. Then we know that if we think about multiplayer action-adventure games, we realize there are a lot of titles, but the ones we remember are not always very new, which means there is really a possibility to keep people knowing about our game, which means we could as well sell on bundles, which games such as Magica and Humble Bundle, because still today they're making a lot of sales. So if we take in consideration the fact that our selling price would be 20 euros per copy, which would make approximately 10 euros for publisher and developer, we would aim for a break-even point a bit more than 100,000 copies, well, forecasting sales around 200,000 copies, which would allow us to be already very profitable. Of course, this is just forecast, so it would really depend on the strategy for distribution we aim for. Well, thank you very much for your attention. Question time.
Pendant qu'on pose des questions, est-ce que le groupe suivant peut venir s'installer, s'il vous plaît? Et questions? Question. Niveau.
Juste, excusez-moi, une petite note à la régie, est-ce qu'on peut avoir des piles parce que le micro va lâcher sinon d'ici la fin des soutenances. Merci.
Okay, so you have the mechanics of power. So you can combine them, but do you have like others mechanics around the power? Like, I don't know, you can use them only 3 times a combat, or do you need to charge them up? Or I don't know, are they less powerful with time? Or I mean, is it only synergy, or do you have things of something else?
No, it's still on. So to use, we have a mana system to use those powers, so you will have to manage your mana bar and just collect orbs of mana to keep this charge up to the fullest to be sure to use it when you want. But the skill tree is here to actually allow players to have more diverse course of action. We thought about a lot of direction to go with it, like having the ability to have 2 tornadoes, or having the ability to like jump and do a special attack while in the air and using it. So we can still experiment on all those possibilities and what it will give the game. For exploration, for fighting new bosses and giving them new mechanics. So we still have to find all the possibilities, because this is only the beginning of what we imagine to be a synergy system.
Other question? Niveau. Bien. Merci beaucoup.
Si tu y es dessus, non, si là tu y es, tu vois la télé, donc c'est ouais, ok. Donc là je peux lancer le trailer et la presse. Oui, tu peux faire. Nous on a juste coupé le vidéoprojecteur, et tu nous fais un signe quand tu es prêt. Et on d'abord le trailer, c'est ça? Ouais, donc mets-toi sur le trailer, je reste en pause, et après quand ils vont intervenir par la vidéo gameplay, ils vont te dire de passer à la presse. On peut dire, c'est pas le trailer là. C'est les gars? Hein? Tu me dis quand je veux lancer l'intro? Ouais. Dès que je me mets là-bas, j'ouvre la vidéo, je le mets en pause, et voilà. Ok. Et après pareil.
Là, vous avez la manette. Tiens, pays. Ouais. Et quand il y a la slide numbers, à la fin de la slide, dis juste qu'on passe au teaser. Et moi, je m'occupe de passer la slide ici et le teaser là-bas.
Okay, so hello everyone. We are going to present you Ascend. This is our student project. We've been working on this for the last 4 months. So at first, let's enjoy a bit of walkthrough. Thank you. Sound, please. Thank you. So our game is called Ascend, and that is because there is a huge focus on verticality. And as for a quick overview of the game, so it's a solo game on TPS set into a biopunk science fiction universe, and it's meant to be released on consoles and PC. About our business model, we went for an episodic model, but not really a linear episodic model, since each episode is meant to be played individually and in every order. So it's more of an anthology model. About the episode duration is about 2 hours, and so each episode is about 13 euros each, and 30 euros for a whole season of 3 episodes. And finally, our game has a big focus on skill, so it's meant for mid and hardcore gamers.
Our main intent with this game was to have a huge focus on fighting from any angle. To do so, we focus our design around an aim-free combat system, and we focus our level design around verticality. For the camera, it has different behavior depending on what the player is doing. For example, when you're exploring, the camera will be close to the character in order for the player to be able to see the environment to the fullest. But when he will be fighting, in order for the player to be able to see all the enemy and to see all its tactical possibility, the camera will go a little bit higher from the character. Also, because we've got an aim-free system, we've got 2 targets on the screen which shows to the player at any time on what he will shoot when he's pressing one of the shoot trigger, and on what he will teleport when he's pressing the teleport button. Lastly, the camera will focus on an enemy when you will shoot at him. That way the player will never lose him from sight.
So about our main character, so here it is. So our character has a pretty wide move set, and everything in the game revolves around movement, so he had to be really quick and agile. And that's why we really didn't came out with a soldier, heavily armored type, but rather a more elegant and aerial kind of character. So this character is oozing with energy. It's a mix between machine and human, and that's why he's oozing with blue lights. We wanted him to look kind of a gas tank, and that's why he's built around cylindrical and capsule shapes. As for his weapon that you can see on the bottom left corner, it's more of a tool, because like the character is here to repair something. He's an engineer. So the tool can be used as a weapon. You can see at the center that there is a module that sends missiles, and also the end sends a continuous fire. But instead of that, he's not really a fighter, and that's also why he wears big traveling clothes, because he's destined for a long journey. A bit more about our local fauna. So here are all the creatures that you are meant to encounter in our vertical slice. All of those creatures are heavily inspired by deep sea creatures, because we were really interested in deep sea. Like many people know deep sea as an environment, but very few have experienced it. So it's a familiar universe, but still the player feels as an outsider in it. It was also interesting to work with invertebrates, because we wanted to have many soft parts so that we could blend shader-based animation with physical-based animation for features such as tentacles and soft parts, but also some key-based animation, for instance, for the boss mainly.
We also wanted for the enemy to not be aggressive at first, so the gameplay is separated in 2 different phases. Basically, you have a first phase is where you're exploring the area and activating different parts of the tower by destroying nest of the creature. And only then, because you're disrupting their environment, the creature will really attack you.
Finally, about the movements of the creatures, we were really inspired by real-life creatures. For instance, the boss is inspired by fiddler crabs that have an oversized claw at one end, and many decisions in design, movement, and animation came from real-life creatures, which was interesting for us in terms of accuracy. About our universe, so the story is pretty simple. You're in a big planet with a big resource in it, and there is huge pumping stations on various places on this planet. But the main one has been malfunctioning, so the player is sent to investigate in the tower and to move upwards in order to repair it. It turns out that a life form has developed inside the tower and mutated, and now it prevents it from working correctly. It was really interesting design-wise to have a tower that has a very definite and distinctive silhouette, because we wanted the player at first grasp to be able to understand which structure the level would look like, so that he can figure out his journey. So about the interiors of this tower, we went for a machine that is breathing heavily and always working with many noises and many movements. It's interesting to work with modular level designs, since we wanted those spaces to be pretty wide and pretty infinite. And also, variety comes not from the assets themselves, but more from the altitude at which you're standing in. For instance, if you're below the ground, you will be more in a rocky area, whereas if you're very up high, everything will be frozen. And finally, about acoustics in our levels, we have sub-levels that are built as closely as possible to our actual spaces in order to have accurate acoustics and reverb effects. So about the sound design and music, there's really something interesting between organic and industrial, so those two are pretty linked together, but different at the same time. So as for the organic, it's more designed to be in the exploration phases, since we have a big difference between exploration phases and combat phases. So organic sounds are more like local fauna, ambiences, and those whispering voice that you can hear as a music during those phases. So all those voices are pretty unclear at the beginning, but as you move on, you will start to hear them more clearly, and they will articulate as a call from above. And about the industrial sounds, those come more during the fights, since the character himself has a very industrial sound design. So all of those sounds and musics are synchronized on the beat, so that it's very percussive. And all the environments and machines are working the same way.
So, we choose an episodic model, and our first season will be composed of 3 episodes. And each episode will come with 2 to 5 hours of gameplay, its own new area of the tower, its own new enemies, and its own narrative thread, which will be mainly environmental. Having a not linear story allows us to have some kind of Metroidvania design. So basically, every episode is playable in any order, and the weapons of each episode and the runes which serve as upgrade for the weapon allow you to discover a new area from the previous and future episode. So the ontological design is really important for that part. Also, doing an episodic model allows us to put metrics inside our game and to understand better our player experience by looking, for example, at different heat maps of weapon used, of shoot versus kill ratio, etc., in order to see what's working best about the game and working on it for the next episodes. Also, having an episodic design allows us to do teasing inter-episodes. So, for example, at the end of the vertical slice, you've seen the boss fleeing from the scene, showing you that maybe is a future encounter. About the schedule and budget, we want to do the first episodes in 9 months in order to be able to produce all the motor element and 3C part which will be used again in the future episodes. That's why it's that long, and that's why it's 670K for production. Then the next episode will be only 4 months long and 260K. The end of the development of an episode will coincide with the start of the development of the next in order to improve our rate of release, because basically all the team will not be needed for the last week of the game. And the last episode will be 206K And that's it. About our market, we think we're close to this game, Hitman, because it's kind of our main example of season game, episodic game with focus on action. Infamous First Light, because it's a short game with a low price, close to R. Nier Automata and Vanquish are more for design elements. And based on the number of this game, we estimated an ownership of 200K with a rentability for 50K of season pass sold to 30 euros. So it gave us an initial investment of 1M and a benefit for each season of 2M.
So here's a trailer of our game. Any questions?
Bonjour, moi c'est Frédéric d'Ubisoft. Avant de poser ma question sur le système de locking des ennemis, déjà félicitations pour le projet. J'avais assisté à la première présentation, vous avez fait beaucoup de progrès sur la proposition et tout. C'est hyper cohérent et franchement un chapeau. Vous n'êtes pas le seul projet à faire un jeu d'action. Déjà félicitations aux autres aussi étudiants parce que c'est pas un genre facile à faire, surtout en projet de deuxième année. Donc bravo, au niveau des feedbacks, au niveau de la caméra et tout, ça avait l'air plutôt bien réglé. Et, à ce niveau, c'est vraiment cool de voir ça. Donc voilà, bravo à vous. Du coup, ma question. Ma question, pourquoi un locking automatique ? Pourquoi vous avez opté pour ça et pourquoi pas un système de lock comme on le voit dans les TPS en mode caméra free et voilà.
C'était principalement pour déplacer en fait le skill et la réflexion moins sur la visée et beaucoup plus sur voir la situation et agir en conséquence, parce que toutes les armes que l'on a pu voir en fait, il n'y a pas d'équipement d'armes, toutes les armes sont disponibles à tout moment sur les boutons, sur les gâchettes de la manette. Donc on peut switcher de l'une à l'autre de façon sans transition, ce qui permet en fait de pouvoir réagir à la situation qu'on a sous nos yeux et donc moins se préoccuper de la visée pour plus réfléchir à qu'est-ce que l'on va faire.
Ok, merci.
Pendant qu'on continue les questions, est-ce que l'équipe de Pile-Up peut venir s'installer? Alors, question suivante. Pardon.
Hi, Kathleen from Forever Games. Congrats on the game, guys. It looks really nice. I had just one quick question. Why does the main character, who's a very intriguing person, actually, why doesn't he have a name? What's his name?
He don't have a name. We don't even know what it is. Is it a human being or a kind of a machine?
You said that it was a mix between human and non-human, but for me it's a bit strange not to just have putting a name on the face of the guy.
In fact, it's a question we can we can play on it in the game and develop the narrative aspect around this question.
Okay, thank you.
Question? Ni vous. Bon, merci beaucoup. Oui, on Ah oui, c'est mieux, hein. Pour jouer la télé en face, c'est plus facile. Attendez.
Vas-y. Tu peux faire configuration si tu veux. Ah bah, c'est après, il n'y a pas besoin. Est-ce qu'on peut avoir deux?
Oui, bah.
Super.
On a deux, c'est sûr. Regarde qu'il est bien allumé. N'hésitez pas. On attendait les derniers. On attendait juste Thierry en fait. It's soon there. Perfect. So, thank you everyone for staying that long. It's the last presentation, and we are going to make it quite fun, let's say. It's a party game, it's a family game, it's for children and for the parents. It's a couch game, so we have some couch here. And let's introduce Pileup. Let's go. Yes. Pileup is a cooperative adventure. Pileup is out. It's here. It's up to 4 players, and you will play a puzzle platformer in a 3D world. Want to say a few words about it?
Yeah, I'll just take briefly to say a word about the mechanics. We want the game to be playable even by people who are not used to play video games, so we kept the input simple. Using the left stick, you can just like move in a 3D space. You can jump, and you can dash. As you saw, you can jump on top of your friend, because that's the main goal in Pileup. It's to pile up. Using this piling up mechanic, you actually are going to be able to reach higher platforms and solve some puzzles. The 4 mechanics that we describe, I actually don't describe one, because you can charge your dash. If you keep the button pressed, like that, you can charge a heavy dash. All of these mechanics are gonna be used to interact with the pile. if you jump on someone, you're starting a pile. If you dash under someone, well, you join the pile, or you can start a new one. And if you heavy dash in a pile, then you're gonna take the place of one of its elements. I said elements and not players because you can include several items in the pile in order to make it higher, or simply to change the ways you're gonna be able to interact with the environments.
What you're seeing here is the main area, the hub, from which you will access to every levels. And right now we are about to present one level, which could be around the 6th one in the full game, the full experience. When the players will arrive, you can see this little guy on the right. It's an NPC character, and it is the NPC giving you a lot of quests and content to unlock. But every time it gets captured by a boss, and then you have to make the whole level to get it back. And right now we're going to do this. Now the presentation is in the hand of the players. The lights on the player, please.
Players are on the other side. Thank you.
Un peu plus de son. Felicitation to the player and for this amazing acting. But just wait a little bit, because in this game, when you finish a level, you get rewarded with even more gameplay, because it's fun to play more. So, for example, when you're finishing a level, you unlock a minigame, and right now we have one to present you. Minigames are unlocked into the main hub, and they are connected to the mechanic that you discovered in this level. Maybe you guessed, but this level was about the bombs, and we are going to play a small football with bombs. Okay, guys, first team to 3 points wins. skip directly to the presentation. C'est à toi?
That was some fierce food bomb. Actually, because of Pilup's level are very linear, you may have some question about replayability. Where is the switch? Oh, thank you. And about the replay value, of course, the minigames are at the core of it. First of all, because you unlock a new one each time you finish a level, but also because there are other ways to unlock new sets of rules for every existing minigames. You also have some hidden quests all over the levels. For example, you may have seen during the walkthrough some areas that we didn't go to. It's actually some secret zones in which you can find, for example, a small non-playable character who is a guy hiding in a bush and asking you to find back stuff he lost in other levels, sending you back to theirs to find them and to bring it back to him. And we also have a speed challenge because Pilup gameplay is all about easy to learn, hard to master. There is a very complex moveset to learn that it's not, well, you don't have to know it to finish the game, but it's gonna allow you to play it with more challenge, to go faster, to like fight the bosses faster also. And so you have a timer inside the game, and if you beat a certain time, then you unlock new content as well. In the final game, there are also going to be some collectibles that will help us signpost, for example, but also reward players with unlockable content. You'll be able to unlock 8 new characters, new playable characters. You can find 2 in the game design documents that you may have somewhere. For example, Mackie skin or Enter the Matrix, one with real Pilup code on it. You are also going to be able to unlock customization. Like you saw, the Game Master, he has very fancy sunglasses. You can have these if you want. There are also the minigame variations and the new sets of rules.
Like for this football, you saw we were playing with a ball, but you can play with a bomb also. It's basically just reward the player again and again with more toy to play with.
And speaking about toys, you can also unlock stuff that we call toys, actual toys. There are objects that are not very useful to interact with something, and you can't solve puzzles with it, but you can have fun, and that's all we want. We want to have fun, because it's a party game before all. And for example, you saw in this level, the small plants, they are very small and very smooth, and they move like that. Oh, just when you go inside. And then you can have huge bushes of this plant and just have fun and play hide and seek, or whatever you want.
Right now, thanks to this pre-production, we gained a lot of experience on the design, especially of this game. We had both technical tools to go further and both knowledge from the design. For example, we have an improved pipeline for the level design between the game designers, and also with exchange with the graphic design and the programming side. As well, we have some tools, level building tool that the programmer did at first. We have all the assets of the game, both programming, both visual, that we can reuse to prototypes. And we have a lot of ideas. I think, is it next to the slide?
I don't think there is a slide, but we
Okay.
don't need one because yes, we do have a lot of ideas. For example, you can massage the back of a mole if you'd like to. You can chase a big, I don't know, a bear with a gigantic butt.
A white bear.
Yeah, that could be fun. Or a llama spitting all over you and maybe, for example, painting your cardboard. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, basically we're just letting ourselves go crazy with this game, and we want to produce more. And thanks to all these tools we developed, we know right now that we can make a level in average 3 weeks maximum. So it will allow us to be more efficient and produce more faster the game we want to make.
This microphone is way better. Before I start, I would like to say that, as you saw maybe in this presentation and during the whole pre-production, we really had a lot of fun making this game. We really put ourselves into it, and we've put a lot of our personalities and just the way that we interact with each other. And this project is really, really a good one for us and very unique. So in the sense that what we want now is to show you guys that we are completely able to develop the full game. And what about the full game exactly? Well, what we want for Pileup is having 12 levels containing 12 bosses, such as the kiwi bird that you saw. Other designs are available in the game design document. Thais was talking about a mole, but we still have an insecure eremite crab that is really scared that nobody comes to her birthday, for example. And in these levels, obviously what we want is 12 mini-games that you unlock at the end of each level. And finally, a main hub, like the one that you saw here, connecting all the levels for the players and displaying all the mini-games that you get throughout the adventure. To realize that, what we need is roughly 12 months, to realize the game, to develop the game. Additionally to that, we could add another 6-month period for any other DLC or update containing more levels, bosses, and mini-games. And as I was mentioning earlier, since we are a really solid team and that we had so much fun making this game, what we want is taking it a step further and keeping the original staff to develop the game. And this is why we intend to start our own thing with this project. So right now, what we're looking for is finding a publisher and other public funds to get started and finance the first part of our game and larger projects to come. And for another part, since we don't want to stop on just making Pileup and go and keep rolling and keep going further, we want to get other private funds, investors, and maybe, fingers crossed, capitalize on the incomes that we could get from Pileup. So right now, I'll just leave you with a trailer of the game, recapturing everything that we said here and even more. Thank you, everyone. Don't hesitate to follow us on Twitter, and if you have any questions, we'll ask them. Thank you.
Toujours Frédéric, toujours d'Ubisoft. Félicitations, c'était vraiment cool. C'est impressionnant de maturité au niveau de la présentation, la structure du niveau et tout. Voilà, c'est vraiment impressionnant de cohérence et des choix que vous avez faits, c'est assez cool. J'avais une question au niveau du gameplay de Pile. À l'époque, sur la première présentation, partir du principe qu'il fallait appuyer sur une touche pour se stacker avec les autres joueurs. Est-ce que c'est toujours le cas? Est-ce que vous avez simplifié un peu la recette? Ça avait l'air plus simple vu d'ici.
Alors en fait, c'est pas appuyer sur une touche pour se stacker, c'est vraiment... donc on a toujours la mécanique de snapping, c'est-à-dire quand on saute sur une pile ou qu'on dash en dessous, tout est snappé sur un axe vertical pour éviter du coup que ça se déplace, parce que toute la pile est déplacée par le joueur qui est en bas. Et du coup, le snapping existe toujours, mais par contre, on rentre dans la pile par les 3 méthodes qu'on a expliquées. Donc, soit on saute dessus, soit on dash en dessous, soit on heavy dash, et on peut rentrer au niveau qu'on veut.
Ok, merci.
Quoi? Automatiquement.
Thank you. First off, congrats. It looks amazing. I want to play the game. Secondly, do you have any plans for potentially single player or less player content? Obviously, there are games that use co-op content. Do you have any plans to bring the game to solo with what you have in the levels to make your own path?
Okay, actually, you can finish Pile Up on your own if you'd like to. Even with the 4 players, you just have to take them on your back. We did that a lot when you were debugging. Vincent is actually a mastermind to do that. But as the main focus of the game is cooperation, it's really hard for now on, as we design the game, to conceive a real solo mode. So basically you can play it on your own if you want to, but it's more of a 2 to 4 players game. What is really changing if you play it on your own is that the challenge is really going to be the puzzles, because you can't count on the guy on top of you or on the guy under you, so you really have to be organized. But it's totally doable if you want to.
The ability to switch controls between cubes could be something, having 3 cubes and then I switch between the first to second and I can play through the whole game by myself because I have no friends, could really help.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the leads we can explore if you do that.
Question? Plus de questions? Si, une question.
Je dis juste bravo au passage.
Merci.
Bah oui, bravo. Alors, moi, il y a un truc que ça m'a fait plaisir d'écouter les looms, qui sont des petits oiseaux accordés parfaitement avec la musique au tout début, parce que ces oiseaux-là, eh bien, on les retrouve dans Une place au soleil avec Montgomery Clift et Elizabeth Taylor. Et ça me touche beaucoup d'avoir fait cette référence au cinéma hollywoodien. Bravo. Sinon, il me semblait qu'il y avait vachement plus de volonté de faire de la musique une fois qu'on était en pile, qu'on avait un changement plus évident. On a perdu un peu ça ou bien?
Non, c'est toujours le but d'avoir des layers qui s'ajoutent quand on s'empile en fait. Ouais. Et du coup là, dès qu'on s'ajoute, la musique reste assez complète. Et si on revient à des joueurs, enfin si on n'est plus pilé, on a quand même la musique qui reste un petit peu un mix plus complet que si on s'était pas empilé. Donc oui, ça, on récompense l'empilement quoi, quand même.
Je l'ai moins senti, la récompense de l'empilement, que dans la première version. Mais c'est parce qu'il doit y avoir d'autres sons qui viennent perturber notre bonheur. Bravo.
Merci.
Et quelqu'un d'autre? Moi, je vous propose un slogan en français. Pile Up, un jeu qui déménage. Bon, y a-t-il d'autres questions? Bon, ben merci beaucoup. Alors, avant qu'on ne se sépare, je voulais remercier tout le monde, tous les élèves surtout. C'était une très belle présentation et c'est la dernière fois que je joue le rôle de maître de cette cérémonie. Donc, je voulais remercier tous les gens qui sont venus, malgré les difficultés, les transports et le froid redoutable jusqu'ici pour assister à cette présentation. Je pense que ceux qui sont là encore pour un moment peuvent aller jouer dans les box, essayer les différents jeux. Vous pouvez consulter, il y a les Game Design Docs qui sont au bout de la pile, si on considère une pile horizontale. Et vous en avez un exemplaire dans chacun des paniers. N'oubliez pas de mettre des commentaires qu'on transmettra, c'est la dernière fois qui soutiennent, transmettra les commentaires. Surtout, mettez des notes. C'est important pour eux.